35 years ago to the day, the world of video games was changed forever with the release of Super Mario Bros. For the Famicom in Japan on September 13th, 1985. At a time when the industry was dominated by arcades, Super Mario Bros. Was instrumental in ushering in a new age of gaming by presenting an experience that altered how people saw video games. While the game is very much rooted in classic arcade game design, it pushed the idea that video games could be self-contained adventures that players could experience from the comfort of their own home. I did not have the pleasure of growing up with Super Mario Bros. When it first released for international audiences, but its legacy can be felt even today, not only with recent Super Mario titles, but with new video games period. In celebration of Super Mario's 35th anniversary, and to kick off a Mario Marathon here on the channel featuring the first few Super Mario games, I thought it would be appropriate to commemorate the occasion with an honest retrospect of the original Super Mario Bros., followed by videos on Super Mario Bros. 2, 3, The Lost Levels, and Super Mario World. I have to start off with a confession. Until recently, I had never actually beaten the original Super Mario Bros. I had played a decent amount here and there for curiosity's sake, but I was never able to do a complete run due to its high difficulty. So in some ways, this is a new experience for me. Assuming you've somehow never heard of Mario in the last 35 years, let's set the stage a little bit here. The Mushroom Kingdom has been invaded by the evil King Bowser and his army of Koopa Troopas, who have abducted Princess Toadstool and imprisoned the Mushroom people in various castles across the land. It's up to Mario, or Luigi if you're playing multiplayer, to save the princess and defeat King Bowser. The game is divided into 8 worlds, each containing 4 stages. The 4th stage in every world is one of the castles where the Mushroom people are being kept, and these levels always end with a supposed encounter with Bowser, after which Mario is told that the princess is being held in a different castle. So really, the in-game story basically amounts to a bunch of fake-outs until Mario finally arrives at the last castle where he finds and rescues the princess. In fact, perceptive players may notice that defeating Bowser in any other castle will reveal that it was only a minion posing as Bowser, which is a nice detail. The premise is about as basic as it gets, and that simplistic approach applies to the gameplay as well. Super Mario Bros. Is a 2D side-scroller platformer, where the objective is to reach the end of a series of obstacle course-style levels. Mario's moveset is incredibly basic. He can move left or right, crouch, run, swim, and jump. But the amazing thing about Super Mario is the incredible nuance behind how players influence Mario's movement. For example, moving left or right doesn't immediately put Mario at maximum walk speed. Instead, he takes time to accelerate before achieving the fastest possible speed, and this also applies when holding down the run button to sprint. Additionally, pressing the jump button doesn't simply launch Mario at exactly the same trajectory every time. Instead, players can briefly dictate the height of Mario's jump by holding down the button, and he can jump even higher if he has built-up velocity. The combination of these two mechanics results in an incredibly engaging experience as players constantly manage Mario's momentum throughout the levels. This nuance is what allows the game to thrive as a platformer, because it presents room for improvement and a high skill ceiling for players to strive for. That being said, I don't think the controls are perfect. While I like the idea of having to take Mario's acceleration into account, I think it's sometimes a little too easy to overshoot or undershoot even the simplest platforms. You have surprisingly little control over Mario's movement in the air, so jumping more or less means you are committed to your jump arc, which can be difficult to judge. Despite that, I think Super Mario Bros. Has a fantastic movement system that is very satisfying to master. Players are tasked with safely maneuvering Mario across a series of platforms while avoiding various hazards on the way to the goal, signified by a flagpole at the end of every stage. There are a number of enemies that will damage or kill Mario if he makes contact with them. Most can be destroyed by simply jumping on them, but others can only be destroyed using bricks or power-ups. Bricks are placed frequently throughout most levels and can be activated by jumping underneath them. Some bricks contain collectibles, of which there's a modest variety. Collecting 100 coins will grant players a 1-up, which essentially gives players another attempt at beating a level, and there are also standalone 1-up mushrooms that serve the same purpose. Super mushrooms transform Mario into Super Mario, allowing him to take one hit from enemies before dying. While in this state, Mario can break certain blocks and gain access to fire flowers, which gives him the power to shoot fireballs, killing most enemies. The last collectible are superstars, which make Mario temporarily invincible. However, he can still die to instant death pits. As far as level design goes, I think some stages are more inspired than others. I appreciate the ones that strike a nice balance between platforming challenges and smart enemy placements, but some levels are just a straight shot to the goal with very long, flat platforms, where the only challenge is avoiding the ridiculous amount of enemies they put all over it. Not bad, I suppose, but it can feel a little lazy. Probably the worst levels are the last few castles where you need to walk along certain paths or go down specific pipes in order to trigger the next section of the level. It basically boils down to trial and error as you waste time trying to find the way forward while avoiding the same hazards and enemies for the 5th time, and it doesn't really fit in a linear platformer like this. I think the overall design of Super Mario Bros. Is an interesting exploration of the concept of progress in games, and the psychological effects that it has on players. The game feels keenly aware of the player's desire to finish it, and does everything it can to toy with that end goal. Every collectible in Super Mario Bros. Presents the player with advantages to progress further in the game. Power-ups like the Super Mushroom, Fire Flower, and Superstar quite literally empower the player and improve their ability to beat a level on that attempt, while 1-ups give players another attempt altogether. Then there are the secret warp pipes, which allow the player to skip large portions of the game. Do you trust yourself to tackle harder levels without getting a game over? Or would it be better to increase your life count in easier levels in preparation for the challenges ahead? Players are constantly forced to make decisions and take risks that directly impact their progression. Even simple things like the timer in the top right corner, the strictly linear level design, and the restrictions on backtracking reinforce how players are heavily railroaded into the singular goal of finishing the game and nothing else. Admittedly, a lot of these design decisions were likely made so that Super Mario Bros. Could function as an arcade title. Arcade games were designed around compulsive tendencies in order to keep people playing, and the idea of killing players quickly and pushing them to get farther in the game fits that bill perfectly. Make no mistake, Super Mario Bros. Is definitely hard, but the most egregious reason it's considered quote-unquote difficult is because the game will boot you all the way back to the start if you lose all your lives. This, to me, is what turns the game from challenging into unbearable and overly punishing. If I've already proven that I can beat a level, then I don't see the point in making me redo stages just to get another attempt at the level I'm struggling with. It's an unfortunate design relic from a time when games were monetized through the failures of its player base, and it is by far the one thing keeping modern players from enjoying Super Mario Bros. To its fullest. But alas, I am playing this game in 2020, and nowadays most official new releases of these old games will include the option to create save states, which you can bet I took full advantage of. #sorry not sorry. The game is definitely a product of its time, and unfortunately another issue I have with Super Mario Bros., which was common for games back then, is that it suffers from a lack of diversity in its graphics and soundtrack. Obviously, the art direction and music still hold up wonderfully, but I just don't think there is enough of it. There's very little visual variety to distinguish levels from each other, and you'll be seeing the same small collection of assets in practically every world, with the biggest difference being the occasional change in background color. Excluding the tunes that play at the end of levels and whatnot, there are only 5 unique music tracks in the whole game, and even then you can pretty much expect to hear the overworld and castle themes 80% of the time given how infrequent the underworld and underwater stages are. Despite everything I've said, I still think Super Mario Bros. Is an excellent example of the power of simplicity. The game benefits hugely from its laser focus on the simple joy of controlling Mario, and going as fast as possible through the levels. It definitely suffers from some old-school game design, and most of that can be blamed on the pressure it had to coincide as an arcade release. Some levels can feel lazy or tedious, and in my opinion they needed a little more visual and audio variety to last across 32 stages. But the thing that makes the original Super Mario Bros. Worth playing now and forever is that despite its shortcomings, the game is still really fun to play. It is rightfully considered one of the most important video games of all time, because it understood the entertainment value of having satisfying control over a character in a virtual space, and revolutionized the industry by pushing the experience of home console gaming. 35 years later, Super Mario Bros. Is a true classic, and I am very much looking forward to more adventures with the mustached plumber in the coming weeks, and I hope you all are too. Happy anniversary, Mario. Long live the king.